Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Ball Games. This is our ELD Legacy Open, our flagship monthly Legacy event. This month was over $1,300 in prizes. Hopefully, continue to grow these throughout 2024. Doing my best to keep up with the coverage of these events to show you what the local metagame looks like. Softing edge of the format. Rodney here just won a Legacy Challenge with this list. Back to playing Magic Online. You can check out his channel. Slay. Brief. Classic response to discard of Brainstorm. See what the hand looks like after this resolves. Still a dangerous situation. You don't necessarily want to tuck all of your counter magic away. There's 2 mana on the other side of the board. Things could go very badly. And yeah, we see a pair of Force of Wills and a Daze. This is a lot to work through. There are 3 counter spells. One of them's going to go right now. 1 force down. Not what you're hoping to see when you take a look across the table with a combo deck. Bowmaster in there as well as Brazen Borrower. All of those cards potentially impactful in this matchup. There's the Delver. So the clock begins ticking. There's just quite a lot of debris on the runway to be cleared before you can actually combo off. See how he proceeds. I'm going to start out with an Animate. That brings back Grief. There'll be another Disruption card down. If a card is used on it, also does its job. I think you probably let this resolve as you're not as concerned about the 2/2 body. And if you start throwing counter magic at that, not only are you going down a card, with the Force of Will, for example, but also every additional animation effect is another counter at that point. So you throw an animate counter, the next animate. If he has a handful of animates, you can just keep doing that and eventually whittle your hand down. Whereas if it just hits once, not as bad. As it currently stands, Rodney is going to need to get something beefy into the graveyard for to have a shot at this game. It's like Bowmaster is going to be coming to the party. This is the up-to-date wording on Animate Dead. It is a mouthful for sure. Bowmasters basically just kind of warding off Gristlebrand at this point. Tomb. This will make future animation effects much stronger. Still got Force plus Daze to play around. Or is it just Daze? Did he get both Forces? I think he got both Forces. Grief the first time and the second time. See how much disruption he has left. For sure he can have Daze. Brainstorm and Ponder. I guess we're actually on Brian's turn as he's pondering. Other Ponder, so completely tapping out. Trying to find some type of interaction. Got Unmask, Pitching, and Tomb. He's got double Daze, along with the Unholy Heat, Brazen Borrower, and Brainstorm. Got a real chance to keep this game continuing if he can hold off something too busted from happening. For example, Atraxa. And it looks like that's not going to be possible. He's tapped out. He has a single daze. Unmask took one of them. Rodney with the extra mana. That's a big issue with this list. This mono black list essentially has a tiny green splash, but there's so many basic swamps in it that it very often embarrasses Daze and by extension Delver decks. Daze most of the time really wants you to have a wasteland or two to go along with it. Daze ends up being incredible when you can be ahead on board, force your opponent to commit mana, and then you're just swatting their spell aside for no mana, just trading card for card while you're already ahead on board. And in a case like this, just having 3 basic swamps, even if Brian had found a wasteland in there, it wouldn't do the job like it typically would. Most decks would have a non-basic that you could blow up, and then that Daze would actually work here to stop Atraxa from entering. Instead, the opposite. He's got an Atraxa. The biggest decision now is which cards to take out of the top 10 from the library. Just an outrageous Magic card. And this body, on its own, is too much for Delver. Death Touch, Lifelink, Vigilance. Unholy Heat is a problem, as is Brazen Borrower. I think Brazen, obviously, the bigger issue is it can just bounce the Atraxa. Unholy Heat would require Rodney to block a creature, which he currently doesn't have to. He can currently just take the damage and crack back. Which in turn means Brian could completely stop attacking and wait for Rodney to attack, then trade. Which is a line that essentially eliminates Brian's clock and gives Rodney full health practically. So this is not great. Yeah, Grief takes out the Brazen Borrower, and Reanimate looks like it's going to bring it back. Or is it hitting Grief? I don't think he has another Grief grab. Animate is being fired off. Yeah, I guess it brought back a Grief. Oh, that's one of the cards he kept off of the Atraxa. So he griefed, reanimated it. 2 cards, 4 life, just how you draw it up. Crazy board presence, and really fought through a extremely strong hand. Scam package, just so brutal. Grief, reanimate, exhume, animate dead, any of those follow-ups. Getting the 2 best cards out of your opponent's hand can just be so absolutely crippling. Obviously, we see that a lot in Modern. It's not as played in Legacy. I guess I don't even know if I can make that claim, because Blue-Black Scam was the rage for a while. Currently, Grixis Delver, kind of thought to be one of the best decks in the format. Pretty much as Brian is running it here. We haven't seen anything overly spicy. Unmask. Sees another solid hand. I mean, his deck is trying. Force and Daze. Brainstorm, Wasteland. Again, that Wasteland not going to be nearly as good as it would be versus other combo decks. So we'll see. He does have a couple of Bayous in there. He may end up drawing them. Daze, Brainstorm. Dark Ritual. Rodney clear, just forcing the issue. Daze had to be used on that Dark Ritual. May have been a bluff, may have been a semi-bluff, but at the end of the day, you're not going to let that Dark Ritual resolve and potentially lose to just Entomb, Reanimate on the spot when you're sitting on a counter. People are going to daze that. Block is on board and now actually established as Delver flips. Force and Daze been so important in this match, so they haven't been able to do their job. Ripped out of the hand. see how it goes. I think, did he actually unmask himself there? My phone blew up. Sorry about that. Unmask pitching Archon. Targeting himself. Oh, okay, there we go. So he actually does unmask himself, and now Exhume gets hit with a Flusterstorm, but he has another Exhume in hand, so Brian's going to need another answer immediately. More damage in there. Exhume has been stopped once, but Gristlebrand sitting in the graveyard. Murktide. Big boy, 8/8. Got a jam. And now it's Gristlebrand drawing 7 cards. Brian actually can't attack with both here. He does. Rodney can block the Delver. Gain 7. Take 8. Just gets rid of a Delver for free. Now Brian has a Lightning Bolt. That's a very sick line. Potentially bolt your own Delver, winning the game. Murktide is bigger than Gristlebrand. Just running over him. However, Rodney gaining 7 life, potentially to be used. Another Gristlebrand activation. If he has another animation effect, there's another Exhume. And no value on Brian's side, not even able to bring anything back. Got Grief. Puts a Delver into the bin. Now Entomb. What do you get here? You get Archon, you get Traxa. I don't know if you lose with either. You're in really good shape no matter what. That's going to do it. The Atraxa actually gets the handshake as Rodney takes out one of the top decks in the metagame. Grixis Delver falling to Reanimator in 2.